You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is Thursday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. You know what's popping off in these crazy tariff-driven markets we're all living through together? Well, let's find out together, shall we? It is time for the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Hope you're having a good trading week. A lot more to come. Got today a full session, 2 shows coming at you. Couple more tomorrow. Second one, of course, if you're hanging out in the pro, you're going to want to join us tomorrow. Oddities is going to be another wild one. Going to throw some interesting stuff at you folks, mix it up a little bit, and maybe have some fun surprises. We shall see. So tune in for Oddities tomorrow after Vol Views. Where do you get that? Same place you get all the other cool pro shows, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. If you join up before Oddities, of course, that means you'll join up before the end of the month. That means your name is entered into the hat to win the March Pro Trading Crate. I'm seeing these things go out the door. Each one's kind of crazier than the last. So I'm just saying you're welcome ahead of time for all of you who are joining up in the Pro. Check it out. It's a good time. As we check out who's joining us on the old Thursday edition of the show, first we go out to the aquarium known as CBOE East, where we are joined by the Flowmaster himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from CBOE. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome back to the show. Have they changed the sign, sir, yet? Does it say CBOE East when you walk in the door now?
Not yet, but I'm sure it's been commissioned. So, yes, I am happy to be here. Beautiful spring-ish day in New York. It's not not that cold. Markets are keeping us on our toes, that's for sure. And just doing my best to keep up with everything that's going on. I did coin a new term. I wanted to publish a piece on March volatility madness, which is coming out, but apparently March Madness is trademarked by the NCAA, so they said you can't use that. So I said, how about something like terrific volatility? So that one we might go with. I don't know.
Maybe you just take off the March and put volatility madness. Bam. There you go. They don't trademark madness. That's what we used to do with all of our broker stuff every March. We just call it options broker madness instead of March, and then bam.
Oh,
good. See,
okay, that's good to know.
There are ways around these things, Mr. Flowmaster.
I should have consulted you.
If you try hard enough. And speaking of a guy who knows his way around a thing or two, he is the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, always dodging hither and yon over there in the hinterlands. Mr. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the Option Block Thursday episode, sir.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be on when we're talking about the terrific markets. I love that one.
All right, with the team assembled, let's dive right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, listeners, let's get into it. The trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. It's another one of those markets, listeners, where if you're not sure what the hell is happening or you don't like what's happening, again, I've said it before, just wait 5 minutes. You will have a markedly different market on your hands in the span of just a few minutes. We are seeing that unfold yet again today. We're red, we're mixed, we're kind of green, we're back to red again. We're in the latter category right now, listeners. The S&P off over 0.25%, closing in on 0.33%. The Dow off not quite 0.5%, about 0.45%. And the NASDAQ off about 0.33%. And our old pal VIX Cash getting a wee bit firmer as the session has progressed. We were at 18.25 not that long ago. Actually, we got below 18, 17.97 ever so briefly this morning. As we're kicking off the show now, a little bit firmer, 18.75, listeners, putting up about 0.5 point from where we started, and also about 0.5 point from where we were on the Monday show as well. VVIX adding 91 when we kicked off the show, puts it up about 7 points out there as well. So vol getting a little bit firmer out there as we're seeing a little bit more of a color we've started to become a little bit more accustomed to on the screens right now, which is red. That said, let's go back to everyone's favorite aquarium. If you can't see the video version of the show, which does not exist, at least not yet, listeners, you don't know what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, Mr. Flowmaster, sir, while you're busy swimming with the fishes, what's been catching your eye in a wild week and another wild day in the market, sir?
Well, it's definitely been interesting, right? So, yeah, and I think you're spot on in terms of like, the market doesn't know what to do right now. So, the anticipation of the tariff, the latest tariff announcement, really hit us pretty hard yesterday. We ended up down. At one point, it was looking, kind of close to 2%, although we rallied back a little bit. And I'm actually doing a zero DTE webinar later today for our friends at E-Trade, and the whole concept of kind of, is the market pricing in the risk? Is the market kind of correctly pricing the day? And so yesterday was an example of it was not. We had a $30 straddle in the morning in SPX, and by the afternoon we were down about 60 or 70 handles. And so, this is, in general, the market does kind of price correctly. So, we're in this kind of moment where it's not really clear. It doesn't feel like the market's pricing correctly. Everybody's kind of waiting for the next headline. And so, it's like we came in this morning, we were down again, but then we were up. Now we're actually kind of just trading a little flat-ish. But what's funny is the day before yesterday, I looked, we were absolutely unchanged from the straddle shortly after the open. So like you could have sold the straddle for around $35 today's Thursday, on Tuesday, and you would have made almost $35. We literally finished within a dollar of where we were early in the session. Yesterday was a total opposite of that. So markets, we know kind of volatility clusters, right? And I think everybody's struggling right now, just kind of to get their footing. And in fact, I was, our CEO was in town this week, Fred Tomczyk, and I asked him how things were, and he said it's a very uncertain time, and that's from the very top level. And so businesses kind of, it's hard to make plans when you just don't quite know what's going to happen, and that's all this new uncertainty. It shows up in our markets as volatility, and for traders, that have a good handle on how options can be used, it can be great opportunities. It certainly kind of helps come up with a lot of ideas on terms of how things are going to play out, and then you just kind of go and try to come up with some trades to express those ideas, as efficiently as possible within the risk constraints that fit your style.
Let me ask you, so far you pointed out some of the things you've been watching out there, but we do call you the Flowmaster for a reason, Mr. Flowmaster. Here we are. We're coming now. Hard to believe we're already winding down Q1 for the year. It's been a topsy-turvy Q1 so far. If you look back on the beginning of 2025 so far, are there any interesting trends that really stand out to you as you're parsing the options flow so far for the year? So any maybe interesting developments or things that make you stroke your chin and say, that's strange?
Well, we're running March volume, even though we've had a couple actually quiet days. Year-to-date volume, we're running around 58.5 million contracts. That's 10 million contracts a day more than 2024. So, and March is actually right around 59 million contracts a day. So incredibly active. The primary drivers really haven't changed in a few years. So, this retail, incredibly strong retail flow, right? So, the Robinhood, the Schwab, the Fidelity, community is just trading very, very actively. And then, single stocks actually in March, even though we actually, I think, are running at record volume for the indexes, SPX is, around 3.9 million contracts a day, and VIX is over 1 million contracts a day. It's the single stock space that is up even more sharply. So it's really kind of, these kinds of markets are what we're here for. It's probably why we have 18 exchanges too, because there is so much activity to go around. It's just, there's other trends going on, but really retail, the short dated options, 0DTE remains a very, very strong focus. And on moves like what we're seeing, where you have some of these intraday moves that are pretty extreme. The 0-day options are really, really useful. If you get caught on the wrong side, they can be really, really dangerous too.
There you go. Speaking of danger, this man knows nothing but danger. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, kind of a dangerous day out there in the markets. Not quite an Uncle Mike type of day, but then again, we wait 5 minutes and who knows, you might be singing your new all-time high thing again. What's been catching your eye out there today and since our last show, sir?
Well, if we can get a 7% move to the all-time highs in 5 minutes, I will be impressed.
That would be pretty impressive.
Yes, no doubt about that. But just looking at this from the markets as a whole, we're, like you said, Mark, we're ending Q1 on the year. We'll have roughly the rest of the day and then 2 more trading days left. And if we finish where we are, S&P's down roughly 3% on the year. And considering all of the headlines and everything that's gone on, and the fact that we're coming off of 20% positive years, I think that's not a bit. That's a pullback that even I can stomach something like that. So I think that's reason to be optimistic. Some other things that I'm seeing today. Silver is up over 2% on the day. Gold's up over 1%. I'm thinking that there is the fear of uncertainty, which that's one thing that we can be certain about. with what's happening right now. And I think that is kind of getting some people into the precious metals a little bit. We do still have an 18 VIX. And with the terrific markets, if you will, I'll be honest, I'm surprised that we don't have a VIX in the mid 20s with the uncertainty that's happening with these tariffs. And once again, I'll leave it at that. Some individual names with which we're keeping an eye on. I think it's important to just keep an eye on these things. Tesla is actually not moving much today. It's actually up 2% on the day instead of getting walloped 10 or 12% or having these giant moves like it is. It's actually having kind of a calm day for Tesla. That's probably the first thing that's sticking out to me. In terms of some other things, we have Google down 1% on the day, Facebook, or I should say Meta, down 0.6% on the day. Netflix is up 1%. NVIDIA, which used to be the big story of the market, even the tariffs have outshined NVIDIA for being the big story of the market. NVIDIA is down a little bit over 1% on the day. And so I think it's just important to continue to take a broad view of things. And when the dust settles, hopefully the bulls can be in charge again. That's my thoughts.
We shall see who is in charge out there in the markets today, listeners. Is it a banger? Are we popping off from a volume perspective? Is it quiet? Is it perhaps eerily quiet? Some might say too quiet. I guess we'll find out, listeners. Head out there to the major indices first. And, you know, that too quiet thing, if you were looking at VIX, you might say, hey, maybe that's a little too quiet. Not much going on out there in VIX land today, unless you get really excited, listeners, about 245,000 contracts on the tape. If you do, then maybe you probably work for CBOE and you love every single contract that goes up. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you because it's kind of quiet out there right now, especially when you see that the ADV is north of 1 million still, 1.14 million. So we got a long way to go before we're threatening that today. The big dog today, such as it is, 18,000 of the April 20s going up out there. Let's see. What do they go up for? April 20s. Yeah, about $1.50, $1.17 to $1.50. $1.14 looks like to $1.50. Are you down for some of those? Listen, including a block of about 4,100 for $1.50. Are you down for a little bit of April 20s out there? I know quite a few of you are. I know a lot of you like that 20 handle. It's kind of just a nice line of demarcation out there, listeners, for a lot of you out there. So there you go. If you want to get in on that level, that's the cost of doing business. Speaking of doing business, SPY is saying, you know, I don't forget about VIX. Who needs VIX? SPY just lighting up the tape out there yet again. Already over 6 million contracts as we're talking, listeners. 6.05. It wasn't that long ago the ADV was about 8 million. So now we're putting that much up almost by the time we talk about it here in the show. So things are wild out there in SPY Town. The ADV reflecting that. The ADV is now a firm 11 million contracts a day. And yeah, it seems like it's on pace to hit that out there. Same deal in the S. Is the S looking hot and spicy? The answer is yes. About 2.15 million. So that's pretty hot for the S as well. The ADV about 3.9 million. So again, looking pretty robust in S land. Do we dare do it? Okay, let's do it just for fun. Top 20 in the SPX yet again. And you know what? Once again, we are 20 for 20. Nobody wants to play outside of today. It's all 0-day listeners, including 56,000 of the 57 halves going up today. That is your big dog, followed by 54,000 of the par, the 5,700 puts. So quite the range as we are hanging out a little bit shy of the 5,700 level in SPX right now. So those puts looking pretty active right now. Small caps lighting the world on fire. You know, they're looking decent, but compared to the other indexes, they seem a little light. 529 on the tape. Back when the ADV was 800,000 or so, that would have been a lot. Right now, the ADV is 1.64 million. So they need to get in gear if they want to hit that today. So small caps not really playing. But you know what? The NASDAQ, nobody told the NASDAQ it was supposed to be a sleepy day because 3.05 million on the tape for the NASDAQ, the ADV 5.25. So the Q's looking pretty hot out there today as well. Single names, listeners. Is it a banger? Is it a light up the tape type of day? The answer is no. I mean, 286, it's all right. I usually consider north of 300, probably closer to 350 as the respectable barometer, but it's not bad. Actually, let's expand it. Let's do a top 11 today, just for fun, because I see there at number 11, my old favorite, Uncle Mike's biggest holding, the name that is the barometer for where Brian Overby will consent to trade an option, wherever this name is trading. Yes, it's Ford. Your beloved Ford, maybe your hated Ford, the dumpster fire that is Ford. Number 11, Ford today, about $10 exactly, off about 30 cents. Obviously, all this tariff news, no bueno for Ford. They actually got lower. They got to 986, which I wouldn't mind seeing a little lower, so I can just roll my calls yet again. Aggressive overwriting has been the key to Ford of late, listeners. 278 on the tape for Ford today. So interesting stuff. Yeah, this talk about massive tariffs on not just cars, but also parts, spooking a lot of players out there in the auto sector today. Morgan now coming out, dropping their price targets for pretty much all of the big manufacturers out there on the auto side. So yeah, it's another wild time out there in these terrific, I'm going to do bad puns. If everyone else is going to do bad puns, why can't I play too? These terrific markets. All right. Number 10, let's get monstrous, or maybe not so much. It's a MicroStrategy, 321 and a quarter, off $8 exactly, or about 2.5% out there. So looking a little bit less monstrous today, 286,000 contracts. Let's see, year to date though, they are still up. They're still up about $21.5, or about 7%. So still up year to date, but they are given a good chunk back, even though it has been a decent month for them overall, up 34% over the past month. So good times for the last month in the monster, if looking a little bit less monstrous today. Number 9, AVGO. Where are they going today? They're going to 288,000 contracts, and they're going to the downside as well, off $7, 172.30, 3.9% to the downside today for good old AVGO. They've been going this year so far as well, off nearly 60 handles, or about 26%. So a rough year for AVGO, listeners. Number 9, 288,000 contracts. Number 8, this is an interesting one. This is Rivian. They are a domestic manufacturer of EVs. They actually have a big plant down there in southern Illinois, I believe. They're popping today. They're popping 65 cents, or about 5.5%, trading $12.76 today. If you know this name, they've kind of had a rough go over the last year. They were $11 about a year ago. So that said, they're up about $1.75 from them. Year to date, they are still down though. They're down about 50 cents, or about almost 4% year to date. So it's been a little bit of a rough year. That said, they got as low as $8.25 back in April of last year, and as high as about $18.86. So they've had a wild range. They're hanging out at the mid to lower portion of that range right now, $12.78. But apparently this news of, it's like they're spinning off a new startup focused on small EVs. Micro mobility, they're calling it. Interesting. So there you go. A little bit of interest. I know they've been really trying to play up all the issues with Tesla lately, offering incentives and deals for Tesla owners to switch to Rivian. So they're trying to make hay while the sun shines out there, or well, maybe while it pours for Tesla. Either way, number 8, haven't seen Rivian on our top 10 in quite some time. Let's just look really quickly, just for fun, listeners, because we're all hanging out here to have a good time. Looks like the big dog out there in Rivian today. The 12 half calls expiring tomorrow. Oh, and these are interesting. The June 22 half calls. Wow. Somebody's coming to play in Rivian. They traded for about 18, almost 19 cents. By the way, there is some OI on this strike, so they could be bailing on these bad boys, but still. Wow, they traded 24 cents, almost 25 cents this morning. 22 halves in June. These are not June of 2026. These are June of this year, listeners. Wow. Okay. If that is a straight buy, listeners, then some folks are feeling the animal. Are you feeling those? Might be a fun little flash poll. Maybe we'll put that out to the producers and see what you folks think. Number 7, it's the Amazonians, listeners. 202 even, up about $1, or about 0.5%. Good for number 7. 319,000 contracts on the tape Keeping the A tech strip alive. It's number 6. It's the fruit company. It's Apple, 223 double, up about $2 exactly, or almost 1%. Year to date, they are still off about $20.50, or about 8.5%. So, as has gone with many of the mighty Magnificent Seven, they have been laid low a little bit this year, with the exception really of Meta. They're one of the few names bucking the trend in the Mag 7. But Apple looking decent today, still rough on the year. Palantir up 20 cents, which is a rounding error for this name. That said, it got down into the 80s again this morning, 89.89 for rallying to where it is right now, 92.5. So this one's been a wild one as well. Don't need me to tell you, it's had a wild year. Number 5, Palantir. Let's just look really quickly again. Let's see what's up in good old Palantir today, listeners. What are the folks slinging out there? It looks like the big dog, 19,000 of the 95 calls expiring next week. Also 19,000 of the 90 puts. Both opening. Looks like the numbers are so similar. They might be. Could it be related paper? Interesting stuff. The 95 calls traded for, looks like about 94 cents. So you like those, listeners? Those are expiring tomorrow. 95, it would seem ridiculous in any other name. In Palantir, we've seen weirder things out here. Those puts traded for about 60, looks like actually 50 to 90 cents. So they've had a wide range. Again, the 90 puts, they were slightly in the money this morning. So they've kind of been all over out there as well. Weirdly similar size paper, but I don't see it going up as spreads. Looks like it went up in just small chunks throughout the day list. Are you slinging yourself a little Palantir? Either way, it's number 5, 373 on our tape. Number 4, back to the A tech names. It's AMD, 503. So all the way up at number 4 before we cross 500,000 contracts, listeners. AMD, 106.25, getting smoked today, off $4 or 3.6%. Year to date, they are off nearly $15, or a little over 12, about 12.25%. So it's been a rough year for good old AMD. A lot of the chip names obviously feeling that heat this year. Number 3, GameStop. Ouch, I guess is the technical term. 21.80 off $6.60, or 23.25%. Just today, if you go year to date, they're off about $9, or about 29%. Maybe if we get to closing a significant number of stores. Yeah, they probably needed to do that a while ago. Close a significant number of stores and invest in Bitcoin, because that's a business model that can't fail. Just buy Bitcoin. What are you? Are you Bitcoin stop now? But I digress. How dare I tease the king of the memes? The folks will come to me. GameStop, 723,000 contracts on the tape today. Number 2, yes, I said number 2. Is this becoming a trend? Are we starting to see a reversal of the old order, going back to the way it used to be? Number 2 is NVIDIA, listeners. 111.75, off $2 exactly, or nearly 2%. So NVIDIA feeling the heat. You know it hasn't been a good year in NVIDIA so far. Off nearly 20%, about 19.25%. 26.5 handles out there so far year to date. Number 2, 2.61 million on the tape. And the big dog yet again, regaining its throne yet again. It's Tesla, 3.01 million, 277.86, up nearly $6, or a little over 2, about 2.1%. In the last 5 days, it's up about 40 handles, or 17%. Yeah, it's still off, though. If you go back a month, it's still off. And, of course, year to date, it's still annihilated off 104.5 handles, let alone from its highs of 428. So it's been a wild year for Tesla, 3.01 million on the tape for them. Earnings-wise, we did see some names popping off. I was just talking earlier about the former. Are they still the king of the memes? I'll let you folks decide. They were Tuesday after the bell, and obviously no bueno. Dollar Tree was on Wednesday. Uncle Mike will be sad. Some sad news in the dollar store sector, his favorite shopping sector, as they're getting rid of an acquisition. I think it was Family Dollar that they bought for about $9 billion, coughing it up for about $1 billion. So apparently no dollars out there anymore in the dollar store segment. Chewy at Lululemon today. So there still are some hot names popping off. If you want to check them all out for yourselves, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side. Really quickly, Lululemon is after the bell today. Let's parse them really quickly. They were at 322.60 when we ran this report. Let's see where they're hanging out right now. 340.69. So they moved a wee bit. They were pricing in almost $31, about 30.67. In the past, they've moved 27.36. So about $3.33 more juice than an already juicy straddle. Is that warranted? Is there action? Well, they've moved quite a bit just recently. So maybe getting a little bit of a pre-earnings move here. But nonetheless, Lululemon, are they overpriced, listeners? I guess we shall find out. This season is looking pretty much in line at a 116%, listeners, compared to our long-term average of 117%. But you know what, listeners? It's Thursday, and there's nothing average about his flow, so let's get to it right now. It is time to unleash the Flowmaster. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get out there. Let's get weird. Let's get wild. It's the Thursday show as well. And you all know Thursday night is pretty much Friday night of this. But so it's like a Friday evening show here on Thursday morning / afternoon. Let's see what the Flowmaster has for us this week. First, we go out to the hallowed halls of Nike. We know they had a rough earnings recently. Trading today, 66 and about a quarter, up about half a buck, or about 0.75%. So far for the year, though, they're still off about $7.50 or a little over 10%. So not a great year so far. They're saying the stock is almost at a 7-year low. Yeah, it's looking pretty rough here, listeners. You got to go back a ways. Yeah, even 5 years ago, the stock was still 83 and a quarter. So you got to go back a ways to see Nike back at a level like this. They are correct. It was about exactly this time, March of 2018. Wow. So yeah, you got to go back a ways, listeners. 7 years to see the last time we saw Nike at these low. By the way, it got up to, in the madness, November of 2021, it got up to about 175. So obviously they have fallen by the wayside quite a bit. So it's been a rough couple of years out here for Nike. A rough year out here so far this year. Mr. Flowmaster, what did you spot out here in Nike, sir?
Yeah, so this is kind of a funky one. It showed up on my scanner with just very high call volume compared to average. So right now you got over 150,000 calls have traded. That's twice the average daily volume, and we're just in the middle of the day. The put volume is pretty mellow at 34,000, and so I know there's something up in there. Volatility is a little bit higher. The put call skew is a little bit flatter, meaning that the focus is not on the put side, even though, as you mentioned, the stock is really pretty beaten up. But the weird thing, the odd thing, is when you actually go in and look at the most active contracts, you have about 42,000 of the 68 strike calls that expire tomorrow. So literally in 26 hours or so. 42,000 of them have traded. It's the data shows that it's a buyer, even though it's trading in relatively small pieces. They paid about 13 cents for most of them, right around 10:30 in the morning. These are opening, and so I mean that's a low dollar option, but at that size, it's a pretty decent chunk of change. And it would take a move of more than almost 2.5% just for them to break even. So I don't follow Nike closely. I mean, it seems to me like it'd be a pretty valuable brand, but maybe tariffs are hitting them. Because most of their production is overseas. That's a funky short-term trade. I don't know if I don't think I would buy any calls that short dated, but I might lean into the stock a little bit. It's come back in when they bought most of them, stock was like at 66.60, and stock's already come back to 66.12 now. So I might just kind of, nibble at the stock, or maybe look for, maybe even just sell a put spread or something a little bit further out, maybe just in the Aprils or something, because that's 3 weeks or so. But it's an odd one, definitely, to see such a short-term, pretty good-sized call buy.
Yeah, the stock has certainly done nothing recently to merit it. It's not like it's lighting the world on fire. And yeah, at a near 7-year low out there right now, listeners. Are you down for a little bit of Nike? As the Flowmaster pointed out, they are obviously subject to the tariffs. I think they produce pretty much everything in Asia, so going to be a lot of tariffs. That said, I think their margins are pretty high on these shoes. They could probably absorb a tariff, and it wouldn't really impact them too much, but apparently not. Looking at the stock, maybe their margins are thinner than I thought. But you're right. Yeah, a lot of stuff going up out there in Nike today, including May 75s. You're right, 50 cents. Wild stuff. You got April 73. All kinds of stuff going up out here. Listen, are you trading any Nike? Looks like they're doing some paper out there today, which is kind of fascinating. Speaking of fascinating paper, Mr. Flowmaster, I'm glad you're joining us today. This is the fun one to get your thoughts on as well, because I was talking earlier, I said we might come back to this name, and we are going to do so right now. Is it still the reigning king of the memes? Is there another name you would put above that? Is it Palantir now? I don't know. Is it one of these crazy quantum names? Is the meme thing dead? Have we moved on to something else? I don't know. Hit me up. Let me know, listeners. But GameStop, I was just talking about them kind of pooping the old bed today. Obviously, earnings no bueno. They're getting out of their core business and going into crypto. So the pivot to crypto. We haven't heard this one before. Go ask a million other struggling retailers how that one worked out. Didn't Overstock.com, a bunch of others all announced that a few years ago with middling results. But nonetheless, GameStop off $7 today. Yeah, just wild stuff. This was when it was heading north to 300 a few years back, and they were still beset with the same problems they're beset by today. No one's buying physical media anymore. It seemed like nonsense then, and I guess it's starting to come home to roost today. But Mr. Flowmaster, what caught our eye? There's the usual explosion of paper out there in GameStop today, as you would expect post-earnings, or a post-earnings week, really. It's over 5 times its normal volume. But Mr. Flowmaster, remember back in the day when we were talking about those old school Tesla catastrophe puts, back when the stock was around $100, 150, 120, and people were loading up on the 1 strike puts, and 5, maybe 10 if they were really optimistic. So it was wild stuff. We used to talk a lot about them. They became a big thing for a while. They were the largest open interest position in Tesla for quite a long time. I'm not saying we're seeing quite that level, but we are seeing some intriguing flow out here in GameStop, which is eerily reminiscent of what we used to talk about back in the old Tesla catastrophe put days. So what are we seeing out here, listeners? Well, like I said, the stock today about $21, off $7, so it's taking a whooping today, off about 25%. We saw a big block that first caught our eye of nearly 3,000 of the December 2027. So we're going out a ways, not D's to 25, not even D's to 26, listeners. December of 2027. And if you had maybe concerns about GameStop being an ongoing concern, maybe these are the puts you would look at. I don't know, 5 strike, kind of wild, but nonetheless, that's what was going up this morning. A huge block of them, nearly 3,000 for 45 cents. Got us wondering what the heck is going up. So we went back in to look, and this strike has been hot, listeners. Total of nearly 30,000 on the tape as we kicked off the show. Maybe more have gone up since then. And the interesting thing is there are prints all over the place. There's a 4,300 lot for 43 cents, 1,000 lots, 1,000 lots, 1,000 lots, 2,000 lots. Looks like some of them could have even been early on in the session, maybe hitting some early bids. So it is possible that they are overwriting some of these, which is equally strange. Are you going to tie up 5 strike puts for over 2 years for 45 cents? Is that your play? I don't know who's making that play. That's kind of a weird one. They're weird either way, Mr. Flowmaster. If you're buying these, I question it. If you're selling these, I kind of question it as well, just just tying up capital for all these years for that trade. But that said, Mr. Flowmaster, did you notice this just explosion of DC5 puts going up in GameStop? Are we back into that era, sir? Is it the era of the catastrophe put again, sir?
Well, it's nice to see flow in, contracts that don't expire, in a number of hours. It is an interesting one, right? I mean, the stock can only go to zero, so your potential gain really is capped by that zero. It's definitely a weird one. I mean, I have some friends that have been in and out of this stock just because it's actually, even though it's kind of down 25% today, it did rally from 20 to 30. So, and now it's kind of come back. It's an interesting one. I mean, the pivot into crypto, if they're just going to try to copy the MicroStrategy model to become a super valuable company, it's kind of worked for MicroStrategy, although you get a lot of gloom and doom about how long that can really hold together. So it's definitely a weird one. I mean, GameStop, I mean, this is we're 5 years past COVID, right? And GameStop was the original meme stock. So, that company is the stock at least has held in and a lot of people still pay a lot of attention to it. So weird one. I definitely wouldn't. I absolutely agree. I don't want to own them and I don't want to be short them either. Long dated options, they have a place, especially I like leap calls in some positions, but and it's not so far out of the money that you'd think of it as like a credit hedge. That would actually be my guess, is maybe somebody has some other transaction on and they needed some super duper disaster puts, and this was what they came up with. But I'm surprised, you could have used flex options to go get something that was even more kind of exactly what you need. So it's definitely a weird one.
Uh-oh, the exchange guy coming out and you pushing the flex, sir. I like this comment from our chat. Who trades an option with 1,000 days to go? Yeah, that is a good question out there. You're right. Flex folks do that a lot. You see that in the flex land. You don't see that in the listed too often. Obviously, you can go out to the leaps and play that way. If you are going to do that, it's usually in the stock sub realm or something like that, not these really, really far out of the money puts. Yeah, I'm with you. These are, in the past, in Tesla and others, they have been, I think, CDS funds and others using these as a hedge against a liquidation, but these are 5 handles. See, I don't want to buy them. I don't want to sell them. It's just it's a weird trade. That's why it's on the odd block. So I would call it that, listeners. All right, let's cleanse our palate. Let's do a little bit of how about some old school upside call paper in a minerals mining name? How about that? Let's do that just to cleanse all of our palates here. Let's go out to Sandstorm Gold Limited. This might be a newcomer. I don't think we talked about this one before. Ticker symbol, appropriately enough, Sand. If the Rock Lobster was here, he would accuse me of choosing this just for an appropriate ticker. But you know what? I'm at the behest of the Eye of Sauron, listeners. 754, up 18 cents today. On the year, we know the deal. It's been a good year in the precious metals market. It was 514 a year ago. So it's up $2.50, about nearly 50% on the year. So a good run for them. And I guess if this paper is to be believed, some folks might think there is more goodness, more upside to be mined. You get that? Pun intended there, listeners. They said June 8th, how are they? They got 30 at 35, which is a weirdly tight market. They said, I'll pay 35 cents, 3,114 times. The stock was pretty much exactly here when they did this. This is a 52-week high in the stock right now, by the way. So they are buying the literal top in the stock, at least for the near term. They do get earnings, though. They get earnings on May 1st. So they get a bit of duration and they get an earnings announcement in this as well. So I don't know, not the wildest swing for the fences we've ever seen, but I mean, maybe not. Maybe you don't like it. Mr. Flowmaster, are you down for a little June 8th in Sandstorm Gold Limited, sir?
Well, I'm not too sure because there's also like 5,000 of the Gen 7 puts that also traded around lunchtime. So like this is kind of, it doesn't look like the same kind of customer. The 5,000 lot was part of a strangle. So maybe somebody's looking for some sort of a move. I mean, do they benefit from the I mean, I guess, you know, actually I was talking to a colleague, Nishank, who you had on the podcast a while ago about gold. You know, so if this is a gold miner, then they do benefit when the price of gold rises. And he's actually a fan of gold right now, even though, you know, price is kind of near all-time highs. So maybe it's an indirect play on price of the yellow metal.
Yeah, there is also a strangle going up today as well. It's the Jan listeners 710 strangle going up about 5,000 times on splits. Looks like they paid around $1.05 for that strangle, listeners. Again, Jan 2026. So this thing's got to move if they're paying $1 for it. They're buying the 710. So obviously 6 and 11 are where you're breaking even on that bad boy. So they need this thing to move. Meanwhile, these sand calls kind of splitting the uprights right in the middle. Maybe you like these better, listeners. Not as much duration, obviously, but you don't need to move as far, and you're not risking as much, obviously. So I guess it's a pick your poison. What do you like better? A lot of premium buying going on, though, today in Sandstorm. As we keep on rolling, see what you folks have on the brain, it is time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, everybody, let's get to the mail block. Let's see what you folks have on the brain out there. We had a flash poll on the Monday show. We were talking about those knack calls. Did you have the knack for knack, listeners? They were the knack Nov 2s trading for 40 cents. We kind of thought on the show we weren't big fans. You folks seemed to like them, though. Our audience was tied. It was interesting. You either liked them or were completely indifferent. 46% wanted to buy those calls for 40 cents. They traded 7,373 times on Monday, listeners. Or 46% just didn't care, and only close to 8% would rather buy the stock instead. The stock, I think at the time, was around a $1.20 or so. So it was a weird one. Nobody wanted to do the covered call or just sell the calls. I thought that was kind of interesting. So no love for collecting that 40 cents, which I thought was kind of interesting. Speaking of interesting, we've had a fun debate on the network following our Monday show on the crypto side. We had our good buddy Tony Saliba on. He was talking about his latest venture, which includes trying to tokenize and bring some liquidity to the world of wine. Need some liquid out there, listeners. Pun intended out there. So we thought we'd ask you folks, quite simply, would you trade wine if it was available in a liquid, again, pun intended, tradable form as a tokenized asset? Simply yes or no. Let's go out to the land of Uncle Mike first. Actually, Uncle Mike, I wouldn't mind getting your thoughts as well. We were just talking about some gold miner upside out there. Maybe you're a fan of those. Are you a fan of those June 8 calls in Sandstorm Gold mining for 35 cents? I mean, I don't know if you're as big on the miners as you are on the actual underlying, but obviously a related trade out there. Do you like those? B, are you a fan of, would you trade wine, I should say, if it was available? They're talking about having a listed order book with an underlying and even options available on it in some way, shape, or form. Does that intrigue you? Does that slake your thirst, Uncle Mike?
Well, first off, in terms of the gold miners, typically we tend to avoid them, not because of anything against them, but if I want to trade gold, I want to trade gold. I don't want some CEO messing things up for me. That's where I want to be with it. So not against it by any means. It's just not our game. I guess with wine, before I get into trading wine, I mean, I'll tell you my opinion on marijuana stocks first. I mean, I think they're high right now. So
I already did all the bad puns that are allowed for the show, so you can't do any more.
Okay, got it. Well, I mean, I like the idea of it. If there's a market for it, I think that's actually very interesting. And that if you want to trade wine, I would imagine that it would. I would be intrigued by it, even though I never drink wine. If I'm going to drink something, I drink beer. That's about it. But I would definitely be interested in seeing how wine would be traded. That does intrigue me, not going to lie. And I don't even drink the stuff.
Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you, sir. Are you intrigued by the world of a tokenized liquid, quote unquote, wine asset that you could trade the underlying or maybe even trade options on? And also, B, which way do you think our audience is going?
I guess, sure, tokenizing wine is good idea. I don't know. Sometimes I think the tokenizing crowd wants to just go find everything, right? Weren't they going to tokenize real estate so you could buy portions of other people's houses?
Everything's. I think you and I have been tokenized already, Mr. Flowmaster. Everything's being tokenized.
I knew something felt weird. So I do think, you know what? I mean, the efficiency of the blockchain, that it does lend itself to things like this. So I think it's great. And, and Tony's got a great track record. So, maybe there's something to it. He also has enough money that he could have a lot of hobbies. So I would say that our listeners probably are interested. But I don't know. I think that if you want to trade wine, you want an auctioneer who's holding up a dusty bottle, and you lose that when you tokenize things.
No dusty bottles and auctioneers. Right now, our audience agrees with you, Mr. Flowmaster. Nearly 2/3, 64.7%. They don't want anything to do with this. Only 35.3% wanna drink some wine out there. I guess Tony didn't sell you on his appearance. Interesting. We'll keep an eye on it, though. The more tradable things, the better. Before we roll out of the mail block, we got a question that's right up your alley here, Mr. Flowmaster. We've been holding on for you. It came from Dan Todd, I suppose. Dan Todd wants to know, are there any plans for iOS versions of the CBOE software suite, particularly Trade Alert? I would love to have something that formats to the screen and is easily navigable and clickable on my tablet. I can't imagine I'm the only one. iOS is becoming the default OS for a lot of traders out there these days. So Mr. Flowmaster, he wants to hang out on the beach with his iPad and rock some Trade Alert. What do you got for him, sir?
Well, I'll tell you, my partner, Bill Sterling, who I started Trade Alert with, he was a Mac guy through and through, and he always was pushing for us to do more work on iOS. I'll tell you, I mean, Trade Alert is a browser-based application. We have some other ways to deliver it, but if you open up a browser, whether you're on, I mean, I have a shortcut on my iPhone. It works great. I can see all the flow that I need to. So, and then when we have API services, those usually come through, some sort of a REST API, which is platform agnostic. So we might have something that would help out anyway. But I actually do agree. I think that, the old Windows and Linux world, that's kind of the sell side, institutional business. And nowadays you have a lot more super active retail. You have more like pro tail, kind of the middle. And, those customers are coming in in different architectures, and it does merit some attention.
Hey, put me down for that as well. I pull up Trade Alert every now and then on iOS. I like it. A dedicated native thing. I wouldn't hate it, Mr. Flowmaster. I get you. I know the responsive web stuff. My web guys always try to sell me on that as well. Who needs an app? We got the responsiveness. I get it. But there is something nice about something native at the end of the day. Are you down for that, listeners? You want a little iOS for the old alerting of trades like Mr. Dan Todd does? If so, hit us up. Let us know, as it's time for us to keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, listeners, as we're coming to the end of the show in these terrific markets, there we go. Last time that pun is allowed on the show, listeners. We are seeing a little bit more red on the screen to wind things down here. Dow off a little over 0.5%. S&P off about 0.4%. NASDAQ off almost 0.5% as well. VIX cash still hanging out at about 18 3/4 where it was when we kicked off the show. All right, Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until the Monday episode?
Well, just to add back to the wine, I mean, if you're getting to trade red wine, you can be in the black while being in the red. That's what I like about the concept of it.
Oh my God,
you're just. I already said we had our limit of bad puns, and you're just pushing the boundaries, sir. We're losing listeners left and right.
With that, what I'll be watching, of course, The tariffs, I'm going to continue to watch silver because we are approaching some recent highs where we could make a run at them in the near future. So looking at those and continuing to watch interest rates and seeing if they have any reaction, if they can be intertwined with, and by interest rates meaning the bonds, seeing if they have any reaction to how the tariffs react and just seeing how it all blends together because it's going to be kind of a chain reaction on a lot of different things with all the moving parts we have coming up in the next few weeks.
And listeners, allow me to apologize right now for the litany of bad puns you've been subjected to throughout the show. Send your hate mail to Uncle Mike Tosaw at St. Charles Wealth Management. And Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next week?
Well, I agree with Mike. We're going to see things are going to stay rocky. These tariffs. It's really interesting to take apart. Which industries are hit, and then which companies within the industries. It's good for some and it's bad for others. And so you get a lot of people taking action and adjusting positions, and trying to be the first ones to spot some places where they could put some money to work. So I'll be watching just kind of this whole global macro picture. And then also, in Bitcoin, I don't trade a ton of it, although I've dabbled. But in this MBTX, which I mentioned in the last show, we'd seen a couple big call spread buyers. So far, it hasn't really gone their way, but they're sticking to the trade. So, watching as that product starts to pick up some steam is pretty interesting. And the great thing about because it's a CBOE prop product, the data we can use our open close data to see the exact kind of makeup of the buying and selling. So we know customers are long, the 225 strike and short the 235 strike. So I'll be keeping an eye on that because it is pretty interesting.
All right, that music means we come to the end of another sojourn through the world of Option Block. If you want even more in your lives, though, stay tuned. I'll be back in a little bit with our buddy Mr. Kevin Green from the Schwab Network to talk all things futures, options. I see our chat. Mr. OG says he likes the bad puns. Well, there you go. I always knew you were a sicko, Mr. Option God, who likes so many bad puns. I'm glad to see you're having fun. If you want to have more fun, stay tuned. Twifo coming up in a little bit. But before we get there, let's go around the horn. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, where should folks go if they want more Uncle Mike goodness in their lives?
Well, true story. One time my basement flooded and I was at an office down there at a previous house. I told my client, your account's literally underwater. The client didn't think it was near as funny as I did.
I was going to say, did they laugh at that?
When I told them why it was underwater, they thought it was kind of funny. But nonetheless, that's my final bad pun of the day today. With that being said, if you would like more bad puns or good puns for that matter, feel free to go to stcharleswealth.com. Set up an appointment with me. Would love to have a conversation with any of our listeners. Always enjoy it. If you're looking for a financial advisor who does not only bad puns, but is not afraid of the option product.
He promises only one bad pun per call, listeners. So hit him up over there. Unless you want more, unless you're down for it, then by all means, hit him up, stcharleswealth.com. And Mr. Flowmaster, if they want to talk iOS versions or they have other questions, just want to talk some flow, where should they go? What should they do?
Just head over to cbo.com/RMA, which is where we have our platforms and the data sets that we offer, and take a look around and request a trial.
Request the trial over there. Maybe you want to kick the tires and light the fires. Maybe you're on iOS, but you want, that accessible version. Either way, a lot of flavors for you over there. cbo.com/RMA to begin your journey to the dark side. It's a fun journey. We go on it every day. And we're going to keep our journey going, listeners, right on through Twifo and a little bit back again tomorrow, noon Central. Dr. Bix, who else will join us? You got to tune in to find out, to talk all the week's worth of vol, and there's a lot of it. Then we're back one final time exclusively for all you pro cats who are wild about bad puns. For a little bit of options oddities, I will be joined by a special guest. Should be a fun time on oddities tomorrow, so make sure you're tuning in for that. If you don't know how to get that, head over, I should say, to the pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. And then we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cbo.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.